The one thing that you can always guarantee when you step inside for a Bejoy Nambiar film is that he will make some of the most visually striking films which are contemporary and genuinely cool looking. However, one criticism always remains with his films that they might be technically proficient, but they are always emotionally distant. Is it the case with Tu Ya Main as well? Let's dive deep. I was genuinely intrigued by the marketing material of Tu Ya Main, an adaptation of the 2018 Thai survival film The Pool, which you can, by the way, see for free in its Hindi dubbed version on YouTube. I say this because there is always something unique about a Nambiar project. High concept films, for the most part, that he tries to make accessible to the public with his distinct aesthetic. The problem is that it doesn't land all the time and often produces a divisive reaction amongst the audience. I think his only film that has unanimously been loved by the public in theaters is his feature film debut Shaitan. Tu Ya Main focuses on Maruti, played by Adarsh Gourav, a rapper from Nalasopara, and Avni, played by Shanaya Kapoor, an influencer from South Bombay. Maruti is in the constant pursuit to gain relevance and fame through his music, using social media for virality so that he gets that one big break. He crosses paths with Avni, someone with a huge fan following, and approaches her for a collaboration. Knowing their worlds are completely different from a social and economic strata point of view, Avni sparks an interest in Maruti and their relationship flourishes, much to the dismay of Avni's relatives. How this unlikely bond goes through its own oscillating journey, only to find themselves in a life-threatening situation of being stuck in a 20-foot pool with a crocodile, forms the basic premise of Tu Ya Main. How they get themselves in the situation and how they escape forms more or less the structure of the second half of the film, probably its best part. I want to first speak about the quality of the film and also provide you some context in the conclusion on how it's different from the original source material. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of Tu Ya Main so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch it in theaters or not. A drag in the first half. The film is 2 hours and 25 minutes long, and the first thing that I processed questioning was whether a survival thriller warrants such an indulgent running time. This is where I believe the movie wastes a lot of time in establishing the relationship between Maruti and Avni. Characters, origin stories, family trauma, economic strifes, all are discussed but seem like an extension of stories set by popular characters already in film versus having their own distinct identity. This is in sharp contrast to the original source material that is 1 hour and 31 minutes long, where the relationship and where the leading couple are emotionally is contextualized immediately, and we are in the thick of survival mode in the pool from the get-go. Tu Ya Main, however, even though Bejoy attempts to flip the screenplay in momentary intervals where we go from the development of the relationship to the life-threatening circumstances in the pool, the movie more or less takes a chronological path in establishing the relationship and moving on to the situation at the pool. This is where I believe as a viewer the film initially seems like a drag. It's visually stunning, yes, like every other Nambiar film, but it doesn't offer anything remotely charming or funny to why these two distinct worlds get drawn to each other. As more time passes, you actually wanted the makers to get to why you tuned in. The croc, the empty pool, and how the hell are they going to escape? This is where I feel like a no-nonsense approach to thrillers like the one employed by the Gujarati film Wash Level 2, where it just got the ball rolling from the first frame, is sometimes just more effective. Cinematography, relevance and score. As I said in my introduction, you can lie in whichever spectrum on what you feel about Bejoy Nambiar as a filmmaker, but one thing is certain, the man makes some visually stunning movies. The cinematography by Remy Dalai is a sight to behold, and this film is another brilliant example of how effective movies are when they are shot in real locations. This is a Mumbai story in its truest sense, and you see it in the contrast provided between the two worlds visually. Maruti is found rapping with his friends as his entire colony gets their daily supply of water through water tanks, while Avni is found swimming in an exclusive club where scarcity is never a fear. The frames of the movie have this consistent overcast aesthetic, synonymous of how most people know Mumbai. Saturated frames with pops of distinct primary colors act as the sliver of joy that Maruti wants to showcase to Avni, being self-aware of his circumstances and how vastly different it is from her ivory tower. One of the distinct features that I must mention that I often criticize Hindi cinema for is its portrayal of social media and virality. Often in films, we see a very boomer approach to these concepts. From Indian 2 to Nadania, we have seen sequences where anyone can go viral. Every stupid video will have a visual of numbers reaching millions and all the phones getting the notification sound of the new viral video in town, and it makes me genuinely facepalm. Refreshingly, Bejoy's depiction of the same is extremely realistic and convincing. The depiction of the meet cute, the growing proximity between them with the backdrop of Mumbai looks visually stunning, and this is where I realized the consistent problem of Bejoy films still exists. I don't really care for Maruti and Avni, but their dates look really aesthetic visually. It felt like I was watching a long music video in the first half versus a film narrative of an unlikely bond, and I think you can say that for a lot of Bejoy films. Beyond the cinematography and the musical albums by several artists, I must commend the score composed by Pratik Rajagopal, who really makes you feel like you are stepping in for a horror film from the first frame. He really adds gravity to the life-threatening stakes in the pool. Generic writing and caricaturish. As I previously said, you can't help but feel like both Maruti and Avni are characters you have already seen. Maruti seems like an extension of Murad from Gully Boy, Avni feels like a toned down version of Ananya from Call Me Bay, and there is an attempt by the makers to make us connect with them as they express their family background together on how the class differences, the contrast in their worlds is actually nothing but superficial, and how they essentially connect as humans, but it's extremely surface level. There is a scene in which Avni's driver gives Maruti some food for thought about dreams and reality, and it felt like it was an extension of the same conversation we saw between Vijay Raj and Ranveer Singh in Gully Boy, where Murad's self-worth and position in society is questioned, and how kuch logo ki kismat mein naukar banna hi likha hai is essentially the theme. Sequences of long dialogue in this movie actually seemed like borrowed ideas versus what this story needed, making you again wish that the movie just gets to the point of these two facing against that croc in an empty pool. The cast and the survival story. Adarsh Gourav, in my eyes, is an extremely versatile actor. He fully convinced me of being this underground rapper who is itching to make an impression and reach the mainstream somehow or the other. He is very cheeky, slick with his approach towards Avni, but can't help himself but be slightly taken aback when she is in the driver's seat of the conversation. Shanaya Kapoor as Avni puts forth a decent performance as the privileged Sobo kid who seems to be running away from her own demons. Honestly, the character is tailor-made for Shanaya, a privileged social media influencer from Sobo. I mean, come on. I think this may be a way to just win people over too, where you are consistently doing roles that are essentially extensions of your own world, and then the perception gets created that you're an extremely skilled actor only to get exposed when you do something completely left of field. I digress. Both the characters lack depth from a writing POV, that's undeniable, but both the actors do convincing jobs with their respective characters. The reason why this film extends to become at least watchable is because of the second half that solely focuses on the quest for survival. Several moments in the thriller reminded me of Gravity, on how just when you know a character has got away from trouble and is in safe hands, another life-threatening situation arises which makes you start from scratch again. This is where Adarsh's frustration is hilariously communicated, stating कि उसकी कहानी गली बॉय से सैराट कब बन गई उसे पता भी नहीं चला, और when he describes the croc as gutter का Godzilla, or references खून भरी मांग and how the croc and his behavior doesn't align with that movie. This is where the movie thrives, the film's second half, specifically the way the pool has been designed, the way the makers have used a combination of CGI and animatronics with the croc, the way the score builds in nail-biting situations, the several strategies that go kaput. It really does make you feel that the stakes are high and the chances of survival are minimal. A huge win for a movie that I believe could have just got to the point earlier. For those who have seen the original Thai film, you are bound to get into a comparative analysis and may prefer the original film because it has a no-nonsense approach to getting right to the point of survival against the croc from the start, much like what was the approach with Vash Level 2. However, I must also tell you that the movie and the elements that it integrates against the croc is not a scene-by-scene recreation of the OG. The OG film literally in scenes has the hero hilariously ragdolling the croc in several instances. It's not a frame-to-frame copy of the original film. This is what I wanted to convey. Here it always puts the humans in an inferior position, changes the sexes where in the first film the man was leading the charge, here Shanaya does the physical heavy lifting, and Bejoy actually raises the stakes and adds his own elements to how the couple gets away from the man-eating croc. I just wished this movie did not have such unnecessary fluff in the first half. I couldn't care less about this dragged romantic relationship. The film, because of its technically proficient and well-edited second half, specifically the survival sequences in the pool, made it actually a decent watch for me, surprisingly. It would have been far better, however, if it just was way more economical with its running time and got to its point earlier. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Tu Ya Main. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.